CBS News foreign correspondent Ben Tracy is in Beijing. Ben, given this latest missile test, Monday's UN sanctions on North Korea appear to have been ineffective. The U.S. has called for tougher sanctions. What do you think it would take for sanctions on North Korea to work?
It's hard to believe at this point that any sort of sanctions against North Korea are going to work. I mean, they've gone through round after round of sanctions. This latest round was really watered down. The U.S. wanted a full-on oil embargo of North Korea, which might have gone a long way to bring North Korea to its knees, but it's unclear if even that would work. They basically have cut the oil supply to its current levels. It's about 4 million barrels a year coming from China to North Korea. That's likely enough to supply the North Korean military with what it needs. Over time, North Korea has shown they're willing to suffer. They're willing to take on these sanctions. They know every time they launch a missile or conduct a nuclear test that another round of sanctions is likely to follow, and they don't care. They want this program. They say it's more important to them to have these weapons and deal with kind of the temporary suffering that they will endure because of the sanctions.
And you mentioned China and the pressure the U.S. has been putting on China to cut off oil exports to North Korea. After the missile test, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called on China to take what he called direct action against North Korea. But how much can we really expect from Beijing?
Probably not a whole lot more. China feels like it has done everything it can do short of a full-on oil embargo that could cause the North Korean regime to collapse, and China does not want to see that happen. As unhappy as they are with North Korea, and there is not a good relationship right now between the two countries, China would rather see Kim Jong Un there with his weapons than see a united Korea with the U.S. military on China's border, or see the peninsula devolve into chaos and then it has some sort of refugee crisis on its border. So China keeps saying they've done everything they can. They keep urging the U.S. to talk to Kim Jong Un. It's not clear that Kim Jong Un actually wants to talk. He appears to want to get these weapons first, be on an equal footing with the U.S., and then sit down and say, okay, now I'll talk.
So there's a logic to his strategy. Our national security correspondent David Martin reported that North Korea appeared to deliberately prepare the missile in plain sight so that U.S. satellites would see. How does that factor into these ongoing provocations?
It's hard to know. I mean, we should always acknowledge that there's so much about North Korea and their motives that we don't really know. It could have been that Kim Jong Un was trying to telegraph, hey, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of your sanctions. We're rolling another missile out. You might have passed your sanctions on Monday, but here's our missile. It's going to launch in the next couple of days. He gets a couple more days of people worrying about a missile launch. It also could have been, though, a strategy to telegraph to the U.S., we don't want to surprise you with this missile launch. We want to prepare you for the fact that we are going to do this. But that is a dangerous game. And when you talk about launching missiles over Japan, at some point Japan can't just sit by and let North Korea keep firing missiles through its airspace. So the question is, at what point do they try to shoot one down? And then you have a very different situation here.
Yeah, and we've also heard President Trump signaled earlier this month that he wanted Japan, along with South Korea, to bolster its arms spending. So it is a ratcheting up of tensions for sure in the region. Ben Tracy in Beijing, thank you.